Hi, welcome to the sixth part of the lecture on the environment and the economy. This may be the last part of this lecture, and maybe I might add another part if we reach to the 15 minutes mark in this part. And basically, this lecture is part of lecture series of the Marxian economics course prepared for the Middlesex University Northern Cyprus campus. And last time we have mentioned that actually the quantity of the waste and quantity of the resources extracted and discarded, how we can decompose this quantity. And we basically decompose this quantity into three parts: P, A, and I. P was population, A was effluence, which is basically the output per person, and I was the intensity, which is basically the waste that is disposed or resources extracted per unit product produced. So what can we say for these three cases? Let's start with population. Well, in case of population, the variable. When we look to the world population, actually, we see that the world population is increasing, especially we have an exponential increase in maybe the last 2 centuries. And we might be very well concerned that this increase might continue into the future. But when we look to another variable, which is fertility rates, we can see that fertility rates are actually decreasing, and that decrease is actually a fast decrease. I leave most of the research on this to you, but just for the fact. When you look to this, for example, fertility rates in the United States, and when you look to the historical data, well, this is basically the rate you see. So basically, this is after 1950s. It has mostly decreased. When you look even further back, actually to the 19th century, you see almost a continuous decrease in the fertility rates in the United States. Yes, this is the data actually. Let me try to get this. Okay, let me get this larger. So this is the basically from 1800 to 2020, and you can see almost a continuous decrease in the fertility rates. That's actually children per woman. This data is of course not that good. This is a better one. You can see it. It's almost a continuous decrease here also. Let me open it also. Well, you see it. That's from 7 child, it has fallen all the way to 2 child, and then after 1940s, it has risen and then fallen back again. So basically, the decrease in fertility rate is nothing new. It has been all around during the period when the population has exploded. Even in the United States, where we could expect, for the United States, basically, we could expect that decrease in fertility rate kicks in very early after the population explosion. Although when we look to the numbers, it's almost like the population explosion and the population increase, this increase in the overall number of people is almost accompanied by decrease in the fertility rate. Number of children was decreasing all along since 19th century in the United States. This trend is almost true for all countries, especially when you start to take look at the points when the population of those countries are increasing. You see fertility rates are mostly, not always, but mostly decreasing. How can we explain this? Well, very easily. The other key variable is number of children die before reaching to adulthood, especially under 1 child mortality rate and under 5 child mortality rate, and women die in the deathbed is also important variable. You can see that those rates were also high, and they start to decrease, and they decrease faster than these rates. So less children are born, but more of them live. So you have this population explosion. But then the decrease in fertility rate will catch up, basically. So we have seen we need to have at least one child to replace an individual. So when we have two, that's the perfect replacement case. If you can have exactly two child surviving to the adulthood, and for now we can also say have new children, of course. But on average, if people have two children, that means that basically. So this is per woman, so basically this should be two. However, even if you have, well, basically some children die, so you should have the rate somehow about 2 in this case. If some children die, you should be able to have on average more children than 2 children. And this is pretty much for the whole society. I mean, the rates vary for one family to another, but as long as the society has can have 2 surviving children, can raise 2 surviving children always that replace the parents, then the society will just keep having a constant population, basically. Basically, the population in the world is still increasing, but you can very well see that the rate of increase is decreasing, and it is expected to peak as fertility rates decrease at a certain level, and then it may even start to decrease, maybe. So, population itself, maybe we might say current population is high, or we might say the leveling off effect is not as high as possible, but at least we have not an explosive case. The population increases somehow become manageable. It is not increasing at an unsustainable rate. I mean, as long as we can manage our population, having this much population might be okay for us. What about the affluence? And here we have a problem. You might know, first, affluence is GDP per capita, the income per capita, and we know the countries with high income per capita are the ones that are rich. The countries with low income per capita are the poor countries, and but we also know, even for the rich countries, we usually would like income per capita to increase. But basically, if it was just income per capita, we could say maybe population decrease can balance this a little bit, basically, and it might be rising income capita might not harm the society because population might be a counterfeiting factor, although of course population cannot decrease all the way to 0. Even that would be a problem. The fact that we always want our income per capita to increase. But the problem is greater than that, actually. And the problem is why income per capita needs to increase. Well, basically, we could very well say at a certain point, income per capita is just enough. I mean, we might decrease the quality of the goods and the composition of the goods we consume, but at least the pure level of the goods we consume might be just enough for us. Well, in neoclassical economics, it was basic assumption that wants are unsatisfied. But why are our wants unsatisfied? Basically, we just have different moments. We try to be as perfect as possible. And how can I, what more stuff I need, what more clothes I need to wear, what more things I should have to make this moment more perfect. So basically, I mean, if you go to the deeper sense of this unsatisfied need and wants factor, we might easily question that assumption. But we have one thing in capitalist economy, as we have mentioned in characteristic of capitalist part. capitalist system as the system, as the economic system internally needs, not individuals necessarily, but the system itself needs continuous expansion. And now we are not talking about the GDP per capita, the income level, life standards of the people. GDP, total production level, needs to always increase so that the competition can be leveled off, and you have an economic system without a crisis. So you don't have a stagnant GDP going stagnant, and life standard being constant, the economy is as stable. When you have stagnant GDP, you have unemployment rising. You have people losing jobs. You have a country in a turbulent economic conditions. So stagnation is not simply stabilizing your economic conditions. Stagnation means economic trouble. So that means, we as I have said before, for a healthy capitalism, you need to have a positive growth rate. And all economists will say this. I mean, can you believe any? Can you say any politicians? I mean, do you think about this? And you can think about this. Any politician who will claim, "I will keep the GDP constant," let alone decreasing it, constant, will win the election? I don't know. Bet up, I believe. But you can think about this. But according to Marxian school, at least, this continuous increase of GDP is a necessity in the capitalist economic system. As a result, the consequence that is following is, so when you return to our equation P times A times I, what is GDP here? GDP is this term, P times A. So not only A need to increase, P times A also need to increase, independent of what is actually happening to population. Otherwise, you have stagnation and depression. So even if your population is decreasing, your GDP should still increase. So not only A, but GDP per capita, but your GDP should increase to have a healthy economic system. So in capitalist system, P times A needs to increase. So what are we left with? What can solve us to basically prevent us to get over the limit, or if we have got over the limit, get back to the below the limit? I, intensity. And you can easily see it in science fictions, the politicians talking about it, and kind of imagination of our society to solve its environmental problems. It's always a technology. It's always a miracle technology that will reduce the carbon emissions per production level in our economic system. No one is, most people are not dreaming of keeping GDP constant or reducing GDP, but rather they dream about a technology that will basically reduce the emissions, pollution, the resource extraction per unit of output that is produced. So, to what extent this intensity might solve our problems? That's something we can discuss. And here you should note one thing. When we have a miracle technology that is reducing I, that miracle technology should not only reduce the I, it should reduce the I to offset increase in GDP, and that offset should be continuous. Since GDP will continue to rise, you will have always a miracle technology, need technologies that are continuously reducing the intensity. So next time we will talk a little bit more on the I, and then we will at this lecture. See you in the next part.